Welcome back everyone to another Company Affairs 2 replay cast, and this time it is going to be a 4v4 on Lian Forest. It's been a while since I've seen this one. Sent in by 47. He's going to be playing as the Soviets. His friends are going to be Wolf SW, also using the Soviet Union. Wyrek, Yurek, Ures, playing as the USF. And Ukraine Bobrich with the Brits. Then we have on the enemy team Ender as the OKW, Mr. Scream using the OKW as well, another OKW Maoist, not playing the Soviets, and Nekepar, also OKW, so 4 OKWs, very strong Spanish terms. Pretty decent for the forest and the town, not so good for the center, but you know, you never really know what these 4 OKWs will actually do. 47, what will we be doing? Well, it seems like he's gonna go for the Special Rifle Command and getting out some penals, so pretty good choice for the close quarter environments of the forest with decently light cover. To use all around. You can use your penals to try to stand up to the Folks and Sturms and pretty much everything that the OKW can throw at you before the Obersalan. Well, it looks like the OKW players are going a little light on the forest, completely just leaving the right side to 47. And of course, trying to push up with their Sturms is a pretty good choice, but that depends on whether or not they get caught in the open like this. At this range, the penals should be doing quite well. Of course, with the second squad coming as a backup, yeah, the penals just have to retreat. In the meantime, the folks from Ender have actually captured the crucial building near the intersection by the victory point on the left side. So of course they're going to be able to do quite a bit of damage to the allied troops in the area. But Ukraine Bobrich thankfully has managed to set up a Vickers in the southern building, thus providing some fire against the building, which only has 2 windows facing south. And of course that means that these folks are pretty much just hopelessly outgunned by the allies. They're gonna have to try to hold on to the area, but I wouldn't do this. I would just give it up and retreat to the secondary line of buildings. Just avoid taking too many casualties. In the meantime, on the left side, it seems like the Germans are also having some trouble because the riflemen over here from Iraq have been able to push back some of these Sturms, possibly with the support of the MG. MG, which is now laying down the smack on the 3rd Sturm Pioneer. Also, yeah, it seems like on the right side, we have 47 just pushing up with his penal squad of Doom, and he's going to be able to take out the Sturm Piles, at least force them to retreat. With the engineers, he was able to capture the strategic point, thus securing himself some extra resources, and now he can use his strong spam of penals to come back down and take care of these folks, but it seems like he'll find another squad and get entangled in that business. His friend Wolf SW has gone for the conscripts, so of course a lot less popular since, you know, the addition of those satchel charges that can actually home in on vehicles for the penals, because of course the main drawback of the penals was that they didn't have any vehicle snares or AT. That wasn't any way reliable, but now with the PTRSs and the satchel charges, that weakness doesn't exist anymore for the early game. Of course, later on, penals do suffer quite a bit against better German infantry, but we aren't late anyway, and we're against an OKW player for the Soviets, so OKW also doesn't have the early MG42s on the Grenadiers, or, you know, set up MG42s. So the penals really are able to just run rampant, and I'm thinking that the conscript choice from Wolf SW wasn't exactly the most optimal possible. He, as for doctrine, seems to favor the conscripts quite a bit. He's got both the tank hunter tactics, which allows him to upgrade his conscript with the PTRSs, and of course the Soviet Reserve Army with the Papashas. Papashas that of course can help him out in the forest against all of these close range units. And that's going to have to retreat both of these penals, unless he wants to lose them. Doesn't look like he's going to lose them. Maybe this one might die. Okay, he managed to escape. Luckily, And now he's got a engineer with a flamer that can do some damage. And here comes the horde of conscripts. I'm guessing the allies will win this engagement. Let's go look at what's happening on the left side. Pretty big push coming in from the American player. Wyrek is pushing up his rifleman. Unfortunately, he's run into a bit of a gauntlet of fire from both of these buildings, so he's going to have to escape. We have a Wasp with an interesting skin, torching some of these folks, and of course getting shot at by the Sturmpiles with the Panzerschreck. So the Germans are going for some AT on the left side, but really not enough. They have one Raken and two P-Shreks, which is really not a lot. An interesting little grenade. I think he tried to throw the grenade at the exit door, so that if the Pioneers were to, try to avoid the fire of the UC, they would just run right into the grenade. Fortunately, it didn't work. Right side, we have Wolf SW doing pretty well, just getting his troops into heavy cover and standing it out at long range against the Volksgrenadier with the SDG-44s. And here comes the flank grenade, of course. Catches one of the conscripts, but thankfully the conscripts managed to move out of the way and will now be able to get some damage down. In the meantime, we have a demo charge, potentially quite dangerous, on the munitions point. Of course, munitions point with a demo charge is quite ironic because you've just, helped yourself out to some munitions to get some demo charges. And the enemy is thinking of recapturing it and then runs right into a demo charge. Well, we'll see. Nekepar does have two Storm Pioneers, so he could upgrade one of these with a support package. Who knows? That could be probably a pretty good idea, regardless. Especially if you're facing two Soviets where they have both demo charges and mines, you should probably go for minesweepers as quickly as possible. And Rakenverfer gets caught out by a lieutenant, so Wyrek going for the lieutenant pick plus a mortar half-track. Very, very heavy investment of fuel into non-vehicles, or I guess non-combat vehicles, and that's going to be not that good when the Lukes comes out. So Malist going for the Lukes. Of course, that can definitely, call these lieutenants and riflemen if they're not too careful. But the Lukes also has to be kind of careful because there's a couple of bazookas coming in from Wyrek. So it looks like the great leap forward of the Lukes goes a little bit too far. The riflemen actually just kind of stand around and not do much. They managed to get a couple pot shots off on the Lukes, but the Lukes is going to be able to escape along with the help of the Sturm Pioneers repairing it. Flag half-track from Mr. Scream is an interesting choice because, of course, soon enough the Allies will go for some vehicles, especially something like this AEC is not good news for the flag half-track. In the meantime, on the right side, ooh, looks like a big explosion. Well, I'm guessing that was a lot of Germans because I saw a very huge little ball of, dots moving on the map. And yeah, that's what demo charges do. Very good job from, I'm not sure if it was Wolf SW or 47. I think it was 47 though. Yeah, well, you should probably buy minesweepers. Yeah, look, the Brits bought minesweepers, and they're against OKW, who only have normal mines. Yeah. Cost 90 munitions, right? Yeah. They're 90 munitions. 90 munitions isn't that much, to be completely honest. With the capacity that the demo charges have to actually wipe out squads just on a click, and wipe out blobs on a click, they can seem really overpowered for their price. They're really cost effective, and of course, this AEC is not in the best spot. Remember, the Lukes with the 30 mil can sometimes penetrate the frontal armor of some of these light vehicles. And here comes a very nice shot from Raken. Yeah, anyway, sometimes it may seem like, demo charges are a little bit too effective for their cost, but you have to remember that you really have to work towards getting yourself wrecked by a demo charge. It's not just something you take very lightly. And here comes the rifle grenade on the Lukes, going a little bit too far forward, and might not be able to escape. Well, looks like the riflemen are just kind of sitting back at base, so unfortunately not really a lot done. There's also another demo charge and a T-70 pretty early for a T70 at 9.5 minutes. This is a pretty decent little T70. Might run right into something that it cannot deal with, but so far it only runs into the Flak Half-Trick. Of course, Flak Half-Trick pops the Glorious Smoke, but here comes the Anti-Tank Grenade from the Conscripts. Conscripts, which will now not actually have any upgrades because Wolf SW goes for Soviet Industry. Of course, one of my favorite doctrines. Pretty great little doctrine that can indeed make you strong as the Soviet Union. With the KV-2 in the late game, you have a pretty much secure, I guess, I don't know, you're just sure that you don't have bad units in the late game. Like, KV-2 is just really, really good, especially great against enemy infantry. You can lock down the whole area, plop it down, although, I mean, on the right side, it wouldn't be the best possible thing. You just plop it down, like, right here. It can lock down the entire area, shoots over obstacles, does a little bit of damage to vehicles, a lot of damage to infantry, especially against blobs. It's just very good. Of course, the KV Flamer can be pretty decent as well, because of its fairly strong ability to just deny an area with the flames. Interesting. So yeah, can deny an area with the flames because of course they stay on the ground and they have pretty long range and very high killing power against infantry. So you can use it to chase down enemy squads, of course, because it's also fairly quick for a heavy tank. And of course it is a heavy tank, so its amount of health points is quite high. So overall the KV Flamer is quite unstoppable if you don't run into a mine. Vehicle crew repair training and repair stations allow you to keep said vehicles on the field and repaired, which also allows you to use your T-34s much more liberally. If you can keep them alive, oh, that was an interesting Stuka strike. If you can keep them alive, you're going to be having them be operational at pretty much near 100% of the time. So that's why Soviet Industry makes your T-34s actually much better. And supply drop can work out at giving you some extra fuel if you have the manpower reserves. 47, in the meantime, has decided to choose the Armored Assault, which is similar to the Soviet Industry in that it gives you a late game option, in this case the S2, but it also gives you the T-34-85. So I'm guessing that 47 is going indeed for a Tier 4, and that's going to mean a Katyusha for him. Katyusha very strong against the blobs of infantry. So a pretty good choice, in my opinion, for 47. In the meantime, these blobs from the Germans absolutely need to escape, because the Soviet horde that's coming through it will just be... yeah, they will not have any mercy. And, well, T-70 is just being very ballsy right now. Approaching into nowhere, you know, nowhere safe, actually. There might be mines here, there might be people with handheld AT weapons, and there might be Raketenwerfers. So of course T-70 goes down. Luke's is still alive, but it's gonna have to escape soon enough. In the meantime, it seems like the Soviets are trying to lock down the area, and ooh, there's another damage charge here ready to blow, but 47 doesn't know what it would be blowing up against, so he decides to pull the trigger. In the meantime, on the left side, the Americans are actually pushing up back against the Germans, which is, in my opinion, pretty good. We have a Schwerpanzer headquarters by Ender in a very aggressive position, which also means a very exposed position, as this AT gun tries to show to its demise, actually, because the Panzer Fusiliers are watching, and you know, they take out the tank gun. Of course, they run right into both a mortar shot and UC. So Wasp carrier doing fairly well for Fort Brits. In the meantime, the Germans, however, are pushing up against the caches of the Allies. The Allies had built some caches. The Germans, of course, being 4 OKWs, can't build caches, thus giving them a bit of a resource disadvantage. This Stuka still is trying to do its best, getting only 5 kills overall, unfortunately. So Maoist so far is trying to go for a Sturmtiger, and the Kepar is going for, I'm guessing, a Panther? Yeah, must be a Panther. Ender going for the Yag or a Panther, depending on if his Schwerpanzer survives the next like 5 minutes, which is very uncertain. Mr. Scream might be going for a KT. Or he might be going for a Command Panther or the Jagdtiger. I don't know. Here comes the huge Satchel Charge spam on the bunker. Thankfully, the folks managed to get out. They don't manage to save the bunker, of course. Oh, here comes the death of the Vet Free, which is very unfortunate. Vet Free Penal goes down. In the meantime, Il-2 Sturmovik attack coming in. Finally, it looks like the Germans went for some Minesweepers, which managed to sweep out the demo charge. That's pretty much literally all it took to counter that 90 munitions, demo charge with a 45 munition, no, 30 munitions support package. So nothing too major right there. Molotov going off on the German troops, gonna force them to retreat. In the meantime, it looks like the Germans are pushing very heavily on the left side of the map, which is pretty decent for them. The problem is they might be just overextending themselves out a little bit too much outside of the net of AT guns that they had, and also the net of course, anti-infantry buildings like the Schwer Panzer. And that means that the Volksgrenadiers are just running straight into lots and lots of trouble. It's going to mean lots and lots of casualties. They might go down to that mine, and they do go down, so wiped out the entire squad. Okay, so the Allies have basically been put on the back foot. Now, what they need to do is they need to be able to concentrate themselves on, well, there goes the Schwer Panzer. They need to concentrate themselves on recapturing the left side of the map and holding 2 VPs. So if I was the Allies, what I would do is I would send a few forces from one player to the right side, just being a bit of an annoyance, like right now 47 is doing. Then send the rest along with one player to the center, and then send the 2 other players to the left side, just to try to hold the center and the left and harass the right. Mostly just because the Germans are going to be running into trouble later on, actually, keeping up with the Allies on the flanks, because the Allies have things like T-34s, Shermans, things that are much better at dealing with the flanks than, for example, Panthers. Of course, there is the Lukes, but the Lukes, it's only as useful as it is alive, and this late, unfortunate. This late, it can die really, really easily. Stuka, unfortunately, decides that it's going to fire at some trees. Please call Greenpeace. And, of course, that doesn't really do too much. In the meantime, Bunker suppresses down these conscripts. But it's no problem because they can just flank it. Go around in the forest. And Wolf SW goes for his first T-34-76. Oh, almost completely crushes that Sturmpire squad. Poor Raketenwerfer has to, go down, and no homing AT grenades or satchels coming in. Very unfortunate. There was something coming in over here. I'm guessing it was a Il-2 Sturmovik attack. Because if it was something German, then these Penals would have definitely kicked the bucket by now. Left side going fairly well for the Allies, but the Germans are regaining the area quite handily. Right now, the Allies on the left side kind of lack for artillery. They have 1 mortar pit and 1 mortar half-track, but it's still only mortars. They have been able to destroy one of the Schwerers, but the second Schwerer is going up, so no Jagdtiger for Ender anytime soon, which is, in my opinion, pretty okay, because he does not need a Jagdtiger. Sorry, a little bit of a tired yawn right there. Yeah, it's a little late. Anyway, yeah, he does not need a Jagdtiger, he needs some Panthers. 2 Jacksons on the field for Weyrich. Those can be used fairly well to destroy the buildings in the center. In the meantime, the buildings are getting pounded by the Katyushi by 47, which is, of course, pretty decent. And right now, yeah, these Volksgrenadiers managed to destroy the engine of the T-34-76, but the Lukes, for some reason, decides to run straight in. A Bet 4 Lukes, basically making its own life forfeit. Very lucky that it does not die, but there's still these 2 Penals that can just come up behind it, and indeed, Lukes is at a damaged engine, so if it doesn't retreat right now, very lucky that the Raketenwerfer with his last dying breath takes out the T-34-76, which was about to come in and zero on that poor Lukes. In the meantime, this conscript has its eyes set on the target, but the URA usage from Wolf SW almost makes his munitions go under the 25 mark. Maxims do have that sustained fire, but that's not going to help them out against Lukes at all. And here comes the Sturm from Maoist. Unfortunately, he's going to lose the Lukes, which is very, very unfortunate for him. Also, more troops sitting on a demo charge. The Germans just need to go with some minesweepers and use them correctly. Howitzer, 105 mil by Nekepar. Probably not the best choice possible, because this is one of those weapons that just takes forever to actually work. And it's going to have to fire, and then every time it fires, it's like 90 seconds of recharge, I think. Something like it. So, you know, not the easiest thing to be using constantly. You need to have it up being up a long time for it to actually pay for itself. Churchill doesn't really give a shit and manages to take out the Panzer Fusiliers. Gun crew goes down. Of course, there is still a Schwer Panzer headquarters, but I think that the mortar pit is in range of the Schwer Panzer headquarters and probably can deal with it. In the meantime, here comes the Sturm Tiger shot on the Churchill. Immobilizes it and destroys it. Also, the UC is immobilized and almost destroyed. That was an excellent Sturm Tiger shot by Maoist. And of course, he can just pull that back and replenish. Oh, there goes the Panther from Nekepar. And unfortunately, that means the end of the Sturm Tiger as well. There's absolutely nothing that can stop the Hell. Why? You could have just gone in with the Jacksons. Oh well. Right side of the map, again under the control of the Allies, and the center of the map is under the control of the Allies, and the left side will soon be under the control of the Allies. So the Allies pretty much on the upswing, and there goes the AI replacing the Nekepar. Or maybe, no, that's Ender, never mind. Yeah, that's not good for the Germans. Ender really didn't know what to do as a long-term strategy. He went for a Jagdpanzer at the end, but that was definitely a mistake. And if you're going to go for a Schwer Panzer headquarters and then lose the Schwer Panzer headquarters because you placed it way too far ahead, at this point you might as well just go for a KT. You shouldn't really build a second Schwer Panzer headquarters and then go for a Jagdpanzer. Then we have Mr. Scream, who also was really late on his Panther, because I don't think he really had an idea of what to actually build from the start. Once he saw that the Soviets were starting to bring out some armor, he should have really gone for that Panther, especially once he sees something like the Skavy Flamer and Katyushi. Both are pretty good. There's an IS-2 right now on the field for 47, so that's also another reason to go with some Panthers. Of course, the Germans don't really know about this so far, and yeah, Nekepar still going for the Panthers, and Maoist had the Sturm. Sturm is really my favorite choice from the Germans this game, but Nekepar going for the Panthers is pretty good, but you have to keep in mind Nekepar is on the right side of the map, where the forest has some pretty terrible pathfinding for Panthers, and right now he just goes in way too recklessly and gets taken out by the huge swarm of allied AT vehicles, of course. Yeah, diving a little bit too deep on the KVA, this is exactly why I was saying that the KVA with its pretty high HP pool is a very monstrous little vehicle, or I guess big vehicle, because of course if you have a lot of HP, it doesn't really matter if you're getting penetrated every single time, which is what happened with the Panther, because you're going to just be lasting a long time, and then you can draw people into traps and such. Babrich, haven't seen much from him so far. Tulip Rocket at point blank range against the Jagdpanzer destroys the vision block, and of course, with the help of these riflemen, can indeed destroy the Jagdpanzer. Come on. Yeah, this is the problem with the Firefly. It's just so very, I guess, inflexible. It really does not have the ability to quickly turn its turret. It does not have the ability to quickly reload its gun. So you have to be very careful with what you're doing with the Firefly. And perhaps that was very reckless, but also, considering Ender is an AI and the Germans are on the back foot, I can see why Babrich went for that kind of an approach. Valentine tank being used as a map wagon, just spawning up everything with its infrared. The Valentine marks, the Valentine Mark 11, sorry, it's a pretty decent anti-vehicle unit. But really the main point of it is that you know, observation mode where you can have a map hack, which is very, very good, very, very strong. You always want to have map hacks because, of course, you want to know what the enemy does. Sturm Tiger goes in a little bit too close. It does have the ability to use its rocket attack. I'm not sure why it's not doing it, and it's just instead exposing itself to the AT grenades of these conscripts. If something were to come up, such as, for example, this KV-8 plus, for example, an S2 and a flank from a Jackson, this Sturm would be in trouble. Sturm fires the 380mm rocket at the KV-8 flamethrower tank, which of course stuns it up, but the problem is it decides to reload right in the middle of enemy territory, which is a terrible idea because, as we'll see, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, come on. Show it. You're missing. He's like 2 meters away. How are you missing? You missed again. You should really stop your tanks when you're moving. Not when you're moving. Stop your tanks when you're moving, sure. You should really stop your tanks when you're firing, because otherwise they're not going to be hitting anything. And here comes the S2, but it's a little bit too late to show what I was thinking. Just to say, whenever you're hitting a Sturm Tiger that's reloading, you have a pretty obscenely high chance of actually abandoning it. Overwatch Artillery... Precision Strike? No. Yeah, right. Time on target plus Overwatch Artillery from... not Overwatch. Airbus shells. Right, that's Company of Heroes 1. Because I played Company of Heroes 1 once, and pretty much that visual effect is used on an ability called Overwatch. Anyway, Airbus shells plus time on target barrage from the allies. Nice concentration of artillery, takes out the Sturm. Of course, it wasn't really needed because there was a S2 heavy tank over there. In the meantime, the X's have dropped to 170 points, and they're very low on everything in general. And the Kepler goes for a Pack 43 in this situation, which is a terrible decision because the Allies have the artillery superiority. Wyrek went for a Priest, and both of the Soviets, I believe, went for Katyusha. Although it looks like Wolf SW lost his Katyusha. But definitely lots of Katyusha on the field with 2 of them with some decent kills. There goes on Ostwind. No, a Lux. Yeah, I think this is over. I pretty much went over what I think the Germans should have done differently. Well, the Allies. 47 did pretty well. I think that he was a little bit timid with his demo charges after the first one, which, you know, took out all those Germans. Then he could have been a little bit more aggressive in general with his infantry. Had he had... interesting. Had he had pushed a little bit more on the right side and contested a little bit more the VPs, I think the VP game would have been more in favor of the Allies for more of the game. And of course, with the armored assault tactics, going for 2 Katyushas, in fact 3 Katyushas, it's probably a bit of an overkill because you can go for those T-3485s to support your S2, which is in my opinion the big priority, and that's a sync error. I think that's because everybody on the enemy team rage quit instead of just surrendering. Yeah, T-3485s are really good on the Doctrine because, of course, they can be used for very good flanks while the S2 holds the fort in the center. Problem with this approach is that, of course, if you have your pretty expensive T-3485s just kind of run into a trap, then, you know, not very good. Wolf SW did pretty well, again, as I thought that the conscripts could have been exchanged for penals. I still like Conscript Sam. I grew up on it, as you could say, in Company of Heroes 2, so Conscript's never really too bad. They're nice and versatile. Lacking Minesweeper is a big mistake, as we know. Very good doctrinal choice. Unfortunately, he couldn't really use his KV2 as much as I would have perhaps hoped. He should have been a little bit more aggressive in pushing forward a KV2, in my opinion, because this is really the signature unit of the Soviet industry. Instead, he dibble-daddled around with T-70 into T-34 into KV-8 into KV-2. So, of course, that delayed the KV-2 by quite a bit. Wyrek, definitely really good play with the Jacksons, keeping them alive and using them as a nice little fire brigade. Whenever a German tank really appeared on any of the sides, he was ready with those Jacksons to come in and destroy it. Then interesting choice of infantry company to get some extra artillery for both the early game and the late game with the priests and the mortar half-tracks. On a 4v4, it definitely can be a smart choice, especially if your allies might for some reason be lacking in terms of artillery. And you're facing 4 OKWs, which are very vulnerable to priests, because of course, you can use the priest's creeping barrage to really destroy the buildings. And you can also use the priest as a very, very nice destroyer of mobilized vehicles, which we had plenty of. And Ukraine Babarich will... Interesting use of the Tulip rockets and the Firefly. Also, nice to see the Valentine being actually purchased. Perhaps he could have been also extremely good usage of the UC. He managed to somehow keep it alive. Not really sure how he played with his infantry, but it seems like he lost a lot. Especially in the left side, he was getting pushed back pretty constantly by Ender and Mr. Scream. So perhaps a little bit more work in the infantry compartment is needed. Especially after his first MG died, I didn't see him actually replenishing it and going for a second MG. Which is probably a pretty big mistake because, you know, you just always need MGs to suppress the enemies when there's a lot of them. So yeah, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you soon.